Welcome back to See You on the Flip Side with your host, man, Thv Script, yours truly. So first and foremost, I'd like to say thank you. Thank you, Lord. Thank you. Thank whoever you are for just having those two eyes and those two ears. You dig? And we're going to carry on in that same manner today. I need you as much as you need me. And we all got a great loving God who will provide for us all. I would like to open up and just say, this is very much an opportunity I consider a blessing. Engagement it takes to open up and speak and have the room to do so is very much treasured in this time now because as I mentioned in the last episode, we are on a digital state of mind. And in that, we have to understand the fluctuation and signals and messages that are sent. It is not more or less written and as vocal as we say we are accustomed to. But now putting that face on it is all we coming to do as we bring education for creation. You know, that's how we move. So with FreeMind Society LLC, we take great value in you, the sponsors, the listeners, the supporters, those who just do an honorable deed in as much as sharing it. You don't even got to follow me. I'm not even going to ask you, to be honest, because you have the power to do so. And if that's something you choose to do, hey, just keep everything else elsewhere. Because it's all going down right here. I'll see you on the flip side. Today. Patterns and pathology. Patterns and pathology. Peas, man. Peas. It's always them peas that appease me. Two, please. That's going to be a deep dive. Before we even do all that, I would like to open up with just a brief insert from a gentleman by the name of Mr. Gary Dumas. We crossed paths some time ago. The black-owned company himself probably, he probably remember, but it's not something I'm just trying to track like that. And if I was to, I would backtrack to a specific thing that intrigued me in an encounter once I met this man who was actually leading a class I was in. This is entitled, Congratulations. Don't let anyone burst your bubble of happiness. Always remember to be that light in the dark. You can't be a sucker. Take a minute, gather the facts, and then make an informed decision before acting. Continuing to set the smart goals for your future is what will succeed. Remember, we all make mistakes. We can't completely erase those. But we can make a positive change and effectively communicate them. Get out there, hit the home run, and do it with your good choices. Now that's something implemented. Just remember, life has a set of colors that you might have one that attributes. Now each person having that unique communication style or style in general, they have different needs and different values. That could be the smile that you present when you look in that mirror. You brush your teeth knowing that today has its measure and today you will accomplish those tasks. With that being said, going back to the reference of Gary Dumas, and it surrounded a series of facts that were outlining the course. Now, this course wasn't one that I put myself in, you dig? I mean, more or less, it could be the circumstance. Initially coming into that class, I was actually working a third shift. I'm overnights. I'm roughing it out with the PO because of the situation. My birthday, I had a lot of fun that year. So I went to go see the man. Didn't expect too much, but I always was open to the opportunity to learn or gain something from the experience. The introduction was all the more a comfort, especially when you're in a situation where you were wrong. You were there because obviously I didn't put myself there. Now, those indicating things would always trigger a sense of uncomfort in any man, woman, or child, just seeing as it is outside of the limits of your control. Now, needless to say, I'm not going to sit here and really downfall the situation because what was gained was more light on a lot of darker realms of things, including patterns and pathology, reaching other individuals within the same room. Mr. Dumas also is entitled Emotional Fitness Strategy and Counseling, along with domestic violence, whether it be male or female circumstances, and personal development. And the details into that is crazy because It's not personal development on the overcoming something. He even attacks the approach of once you've overcame it, the development that has to take place after that is a whole new growth process. And, it speaks for itself. All I'm saying is, was shed some light onto that small note. And with that, a lot of these details and concepts that are coming from my angle with patterns and pathology were clarified through communication on how to not only define these terms, but how these terms are defined in not only my life, everyone around you. Gary Dumas initially jump-started the program Dumas on Demand, which is in the area of human services. In any case, I will tell you, I fell asleep in the class a few times. Hey, it is what it is. I like to call that osmosis. The fact that every single instructional term that was being used and defined was always related to an experience in which he obtained the understanding of exactly how that applied to his life. It gave me a perspective to take a look back at myself as he was giving me that game or dishing me a bowl of fruit. If you or anybody feels that you are in a position that not only is out of your control, obviously, but a position in which you don't feel the freedom internally that will pour out and your freedom that you are entitled to as a human being and a child of God at most, you should always seek guidance and mentorship, whether that be the gentleman that I approached this matter with, or anyone in your local community, family, or circle that you commend as reparable. Self is a big thing here. In order for us to all come to this agreement, to go down this journey, this rabbit hole, and I don't even believe all that. See, the thing is, that whole metaphor confuses me because I just think of Alice, and I'm just, little Alice. To take it back a notch, if everybody choose to take a path that will lead to their own redemption, those steps are hard to take by yourself initially. And not only that, the strength that is built through that process doesn't just come from self. It comes from the environment surrounding. So with that being said, don't ever hesitate to reach out, even if it's just to me through these comments, DMs, whatnots. You could just tell me I was looking ugly today, and I'll be like, that's fine. How do you feel? We could talk about it.
On my job, I go for the kill with it. All my life, had to learn how to deal with it. When you down, who's the ones that's gonna give a shit? Bring you down and build you up, that's the difference. Determine your purpose and behave with some diligence.
Coming down to earth and jumping right into this patterns and pathology, I kind of put myself to the challenge. This is one of the toughest terms that I address throughout this whole season. And hey, leave a comment if you agree or disagree. If you're keeping up, stay tuned. We're going to take the time to digest these things together. I'm going to take the time to find the best words to translate to whoever is given that time and energy right now, so that the way we see these terms, definitions, correlations, examples, and even impel comparison on how we conjure them, have that open mind and the freedom to know that you don't have to agree nor accept anything in your life. Everybody's familiar with a pattern, correct? I don't know. There's a few patterns on this thing behind me. There's a few patterns on that one. There's a few patterns and everything. Well, the thing is, I wasn't too familiar with patterns as much as I like to think I was. I took it upon myself this time around going into the study, because initially I was going to use a sheet that was put together by a third party. I want to go ahead and just do an alternate dive into this and just simplify it in the terms of my background knowledge and what I can present. And this is what I got. These are coming from the Oxford Dictionary. We'll start with patterns, of course. Now, the first definitive term that you will find is that a pattern repeats artistic or decorative design. Second definition implies a plan, diagram, or model used as an archetype. Leading to the third one I wrote down, it was a composite of traits or features to make, mold, or design following a pattern. I didn't want to get all too deep with that, but it's pretty simple. I cut it, repeating artistic or decorative design. Understandable. It's a pattern, feng shui, yada yada. A plan, diagram, or model used as an archetype. Now this, let's see, I'm going to throw an example there because this is just my perception. We make sure we're on the same accord when it comes to these patterns and the differences. So a diagram, let's say we're building a home. You got the blueprints. This is the way I'm looking at this. Now you got a diagram here. It does have to fit a specific design, most likely modeling an archetype. And that's how I got that. Okay. But moved on to the second definition. And one thing appeals to me. You can have a house built. You can have many houses built. They don't actually have to follow the same model nor design for those houses to stand on a solid foundation or even look good for that matter. Takes me to a question. I think to myself, now I see a different pattern. Now that pattern may be relatively the same when it comes to the increments of space, measurements. That's breaking something down to a level we ain't going to. Although you find those similarities, it's not bad to find the contrasts in the same thing. We speak a language with many variations of words that mean many things. This is what FreeMind Society entitles in many measures of expression. And I just point that out as we go into this third definition. Now, that composite of traits, features to make, mold, or design by following a pattern, that tied both of those in my head in a knot. Because see, I broke that down to number, I broke the other one down to design. This whole thing right here was like, no, if you compositize the features, the make, the mold, and the design, all of it could be following a totally different pattern. But it doesn't mean they're not all following a pattern in which that final product come out. Like whether you putting couches together, painting walls, or putting the walls up, you dig? You see, patterns not only affect the way things are created, built, established, and firmly cemented, it also plays a huge factor in the way we reciprocate life as we know it. Whether that be bearing a child, raising it into this world, and the patterns being hereditary. These hereditary traits come into factor. Now you can take a different perspective on a pattern. You see, self was a big thing I kind of said out the gate because I didn't want anybody who was listening to take their self out of the perspective of what we're speaking about. And if we're going to put self in this perspective, then we might as well take a look at the patterns in our everyday lives. Ultimately, a pattern is not something that you identify in a situation, occurrence. It is something that has been transcending over a matter of time and has now come to the light of your attention. And that's neither good or bad. What you do after having the awareness of that pattern, that is what opened me to looking into certain patterns in my life. The last episode I just recorded, there was a series of words I said so many times that I never noticed it. But it was a pattern. It was a sequence of words, and it was the same words. I had to go through and chop out, edit these words. And I said, wow, I could count almost over double digits. I didn't do that, and unconsciously. I started the day with an awareness of that, not only needed to take note of, but it was something that was a pattern. And it could not have just started because the amount of times I used, whatever the filler was, it was just subjugating something that I was blind to. That's just relative to me and a more recent experience when it comes to patterns. But if we take it in a span, because it does take a span of to see a pattern, all of us, we kind of have a brain on us that will sometimes accept that this is what it is. For instance, it's the spring, so most people are going to accept that it's not going to snow. Well, let that be the case. That wouldn't be a pattern because, see, we know the pattern, right? Although we can acknowledge those patterns, those changes in seasons, those things that reoccur each and every year, it will not ultimately dictate if you are looking at the pattern in a manner that is relative to what can change, or rather what will change and what won't change. You see, and that's going into some pathological things. We haven't got there yet. Now, pattern is key. For instance, we all were devastated when we faced with the coronavirus epidemic. May the Lord continue to strengthen us as we overcome all that has trickled from that. Patterns change. You see, the flu as a child struck fear in me in a way that I knew it was bound to happen. It's a pattern. It's I don't know anybody who hasn't caught the flu. You know, that's a pattern. That's a pattern of life right now within the culture we reside in. That doesn't mean everybody's going to pay attention to when the flu rises, when it grows into something different, when it mutates, see, but if you were, I'm pretty sure you'd have to peep the pattern, you see. Furthermore, I won't spend a lot of time on patterns because it is a rudimentary thing that patterns are instilled within us as a child, although we don't dig into the dirty details of what a pattern may present. I'm not going to sit here and just hammer anybody on a pattern. It's quite simple that is reoccurring. The mail comes every day. You know, the car will run out of gas at a certain mileage. These are very vital patterns. The emphasis I just put on patterns today is not to emphasize that you need to change a pattern or this pattern is because of this. No, now we will further relate pathology to a strenuous amount of things due to how vital these P's are. It's an indicator. Now, when your gas is running out, a light comes on. When the mail didn't come today, it's an empty box. When it snowed in the spring, it was a cold day. All I'm saying is, if you can identify a pattern, it will furthermore be an indicator in whatever projection that pattern is leading to. Whether it's something you're projecting or something you're forecasting, something you're preparing for, or something you're planning. Having a set pattern is essential. And I just want to bring that to the light today. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you on the flip side. We're going to make this a pattern. When you apply it to, per se, molding or even reforming, what's another word? Shaping as much as creating, because even these podcasts, I have to create an episode, although it's one show. When taking it into that perspective, patterns can be essential to every strategic path that is going to be taken, whether that's to go to the store, go to the bathroom. You don't flush, it might back up. All I'm saying is P's, man, P's. Patterns. Peep the pattern. Peep the pattern. We will. As long as you see it on the flip side. Of course, the next P. Pathology. Pathological. Pathogen. Pathology. Well, one, it's the scientific study of disease. Pretty short and sweet. Pathology. The anatomical or functional manifestation of a disease, like a quote unquote, a departure or deviation from a normal condition. Whoo! Them definitions was so short and straight to the point. And it's funny, It's funny because before diving into this independent study of patterns of pathology, I couldn't have told you about nothing about a pathology. And it even crossed my brain. The thing about it is, it did. One way or another, whether I was conscious or not, pathology is a long-term stem of life. Most times you hear pathology, it is more or less relative to the field of medical science, surgeons, and any other doctor in the field dealing with illness, sickness, diagnoses that create disability factors, and any underlying thing that we potentially don't know the pattern to. we have a continuous battle here on Earth to stay aware of patterns, and there are particular people who are honored with the job and the education and scholar to do so. We have to commend that alone going into pathology, seeing as not a lot of us will see the indicators, the patterns that will shine a light on pathological traits that you might not consider. You see, although each definition outside of the last one pertain to the study of disease or even the manifestation of such an acknowledgement, that last one, the departure or deviation from normal conditions, that one is the one, though. You see, there is a factor in life called evolution. This is a factor that is very much uncontrollable, and who would try to? The thing about that is, whenever we come to the awareness of the patterns, the particular things on the scale of time in which a pattern can be based upon, on a very much wider scale of things, there's pathology. Now, you might have a pattern down. 30 years, you saw this pattern play out just as much as the pattern you peep. You have to know what brought you to the light of that pattern was probably another pattern. Now that's deep. These people who are spending time enveloping their attention to pathological traits and systems that were far beyond our time here presently, they take on a tremendous amount of information. Needless to say, some of it may not even pertain to the pathogen they're studying. You see, patterns and pathology are like a left hand and a right hand. There really isn't one without the other. And this topic is hard to fit into a box. In curriculums these days, school is trying to fit so much into the algorithm in which we are growing, especially on the digital matter, that patterns and pathology is definitely something that independently we have to grow into the awareness of the patterns that happen every day simultaneously within everyone's realm of life and reach of existence. Once we find the awareness of this and that and the patterns that dictate pathological terms, then we can find a method of solving the separation, which we just kind of bridge the gap of pathology in terms of the traits that embody the pattern, and in turn can be passed down genetically, can be passed down through just the type of foods we eat on a basis of years. So, there's so many places we could take it, and I won't, because that's for us all to do independently. Collectively, we're talking about pathology.
All my life had to learn how to deal with it. When you down, who's the ones that's gonna give a shit? Bring you down and build you up, that's the difference. Determine your purpose and behave with some diligence. Calmest ways.
Once again, thank you for tuning in to see you on the flip side as we venture into peas, and more peas. Pathology, though. Now, if you take into perspective that time scale that I mentioned a little earlier, a pattern can be laid out in a smaller tone of time and tempo. But in a pathology, this is something built on those scales that are bigger, more wide-scaled, ideal, because you want to see what is produced pathologically or produced stemming from said pattern. So in a way, you want to look at it like a before and an after, or you can even look at it as an after and an after, because at the end of the day, you got to prepare. Coming back to pathology, when you want to prepare, protect, or even just be aware of certain even DNA structures, whether it be certain concepts or certain methods of usage, whether that's from like the tools at work all the way to the tools you use to reach another individual. These pathological traits were not something that we just were birthed with in the manner of we created this. No, see, we all going back and forth, one or the other. The only thing about that is each way you're going to see a pathological factor that would dictate the shift or even the projection of what may occur not only in your life but in the lives of those around you. And it's just a small term to coin, pathologically. And if we do such things as implement the idea of how every pattern may or may not shift into pathological stem that you may come across. Now, it's just open as that idea there that would instill a security in your awareness. Then I feel we would branch into the security and the awareness of those around you, kind of like they do that neighborhood watch and whatnot. Now, when you implement your own technique or just say take action in your awareness, that doesn't deem you capable of changing what's ultimately the outcome. It does prepare you for what's to come or the outcome, aftermath, however you would like to legitimately state that or put your place in that position. These things, though, can be implemented on a wide scale. I would like to take it to even Katrina. You know, those moments in life, I was just a young boy. Katrina hit everybody, and I mean the aftermath, the waves, the man, everybody got up and gone. And the thing about that is, man, wasn't a lot of people prepared for that. Everybody knew that there was a pattern about hurricanes, you know, in that region, and it still is on these day-to-day basis. The thing about that is preparation, though, you know, that can become a pathological trait. Think about preparation becoming a pathological trait. They just hand it down like, yeah, I know that's hey, stay prepared. They stay ready. She stay on T. And so, you know, hey, the whole look at it sounds like an old geeky term, but pathologically speaking, it's the reality that we all trying to change. And it all starts with the little patterns that you notice. Even the little pathological things, the pathogens that are actually right within that, like an atom, how an atom has those molecules that go all around it, but you looking at an atom, you know, there's a core there. But then just like that, the pattern of how those little molecules are going around that atom, that is what deems that pathogen, that atom or whatever it is, making a model of what you will and what you won't. As we reflect, project, and gather all these little definitive terms, details, examples, and just ultimately topic of discussion for today, it's really nice to go about it in a manner of constructing the realization. So a realization in theory is to manifest, to show, to think seriously upon in a manner that you comprehend completely and correctly. And if I could say anything about pathology and patterns that would ultimately outline where I'm coming from and my angle at this, it is just to strengthen the concepts of such things, to open the minds to various variants. You know, it's for us all to open our minds in this society and day and age, because with the more information that's being implemented, pathology is something that we need to look at. There are pathological traits within the educational structure that have been acquired throughout the stem of educational structure. So that's why those emphasis is not would entail you to, I'd say, better or worse, good or bad, only in the way that you use it, and only in the way that you take it, and only in the way that I can provide it. So with that, we can take a mental note sometimes on things. I came in heavy on this one. This was like the first topic discussion. Anything that's being outlined throughout the rest of this season, it's not going to be touched in the same approach as I did this, because, you know, opening my mind to podcasting, See You On the Flip Side is entitled to the same values that we have implemented into FreeMind Society LLC, which is going to be patented into everything that we create, everything that will transpire throughout these airways, visual broadcasts, and anything else that we may perform or provide to you at this measure. It is all in the eye and awareness of patterns and pathology, whether it's the patterns that I am trying to adjust in my own life every day, in my own journey here as we walk, or if it's the pathology I see our broadcast heading. I don't like to use the word disease, even though the definitions that we actually just like touch bases on, they all really reference to a form of disease or something that was critical and impacting a negative way to the body of something, right? But pathology, I have a whole look at it to where I'm like, okay, well, does that close the door on the light that could shine right here on that? Like, in essence of a pathological trait, somebody might talk too much. I might talk too much. Shoot, my father might have talked too much. Look, my kid might talk too much one day. The thing about that is, yeah, that's a pathological trait. It's a pattern as well, but it's more or less a pathological trait. So that's something when getting to know somebody, just as simple as that. Pathology. Just think about it. There's so many P's we could press. I'll be wondering, man, like what kind of P's is these guys pressing? It's a lot of P's, and I only hear if everybody pressing the same P, then what's the point of pressing P? So with that being said, patterns and pathology. Patterns, pathology. Let's make this a pattern. I'm going to be bringing some faces this season, man. I can't wait. And the more we work on this, the more, man, the list is growing. The more anticipation is growing inside of me. The more enthusiastic I feel about jumping on this camera in my spare time of life, which is not spare. I can't spare nothing but what I can coin in this moment. So with that being said, thank you. Continue to show that support and that love for everybody in your community. I'm not going to ask you to follow me, and I told you that. But there will be things documented down below that will lead you if you want to go on that hunt, or if you just want to keep up, or if you want to share. Because guess what? I'm open for ideas. You know, what is your thought on a pattern? What is your thought on a pathology and everything that surrounds that? You know, the adjective and the verb. And so enlighten me. I would love to see a different outlook. I would love to see someone else's perspective implemented or even shared in as much as we can gain in these conversations. The door is open in Kansas City, and its door is open everywhere in this world, you see, and even furthermore, the universe. So when we look at the grandest scale that things can be surfaced upon, let's look at the pathology in this world. Let's look at the patterns in this world. But hey, if we can tee it all up to the patterns and pathology in our everyday lives, think how critical it changed that scale. And that's that scale I mentioned. This is about the third time where whenever you see this video that you hear me say that scale, because it's there are different scales and measures. And you know, I'm a man of balance. You know, I'm not gonna go into all the different stars and things. You can look things up, right? So with all that being said, I just like to see it up and down and all around, just like this beautiful earth that we all reside on. And let's love and honor God, man, and continue to give him the praise and honor as I let him flow. And we'll see it on the flip side, you know? So this being our first topic discussion that entails see you on the flip side in season 1, at least, you could say preparation is key. But in all honesty, it's the action that has to be taken in most cases that even gets this pilot to take flight, you know. Ultimately, that's the same I see in any of us that are building to thrive on any type of foundation or platform. This is just one I'm trying to add to it, because I think as much as people want to seek validation and accomplishment, you already accomplished that. You know what I'm saying? You already did that. Make it a pattern of walking in your accomplishment, walking in your success. You know, I want to see some things like that, you know. I didn't always walk in a way that I wanted to progress. Not saying I wanted to digress. The thing about that is, if I don't know more, how could I know less? I made it a pattern to study in assorted ways, various things, but most fervently in the spirit and in the word of God, and in multiple manners of the truth that God has spoken, man, and accepting him into my life to guide, to lead, to secure that mission and objective, which is more or less to strengthen to build, to share. And if we close our eyes, even just like that, and I bow my head with you, the thing about it is, I still see you on the flip side, because that's where we coming from. Hey, humble as I know how, let's see this thing. Let's see it through. We're going to see how far it goes, but I'm building with you as much as you're building with me. Every day is essential to us all. Let's just remember the patterns that we pick up, the patterns that we put down, and the patterns that we place in different areas of our lives that can easily be overlooked. Brushing your teeth can become a pattern. That's a pattern that's good to have. Hey, pathologically speaking, since they invented the toothbrush, we all picked up that pattern to produce a pathological trait in the profitable coin. Because I'm trying to think of a good way to talk about pathology. You open that dictionary up, it's kind of dark. It's vague, it's blunt, and it in perspective, that is the way that you have to approach it. But how can we implement that word? How can we define that term that in our own life? How can we make that definition shift into a perspective that is more open? And that's why patterns, pathology. Let's press P all season, man. And it starts with the patterns and the pathology. And if you're not even diving into one, don't even worry about the other. But see, don't even worry about it, because hey, the moment you look into anything that you were looking to find out, right? You already digested the appetizer. You know what I'm saying? When you took that first initial thought, like what is, why does, and how come? But see, those kind of questions, it's not easy to get answered as a community of believers and as people who are alive at most, walking strong and firm in our walks and dedicated to our hustle and pursuits to take care of our family and the things that keep us rooted. Patterns, pathology. Yeah, it is what it is till it ain't, right? It is what it is till it ain't, right? And that's a pattern. That's a pattern. That rooster gonna crow every morning. That's a pattern. But pathologically speaking, that really don't matter. See, yeah, we know the male gonna get up and toot that horn. That rooster gonna cock-a-doodle-doo. But if you really want to be real, though, that rooster doing that is just a pattern in which it doesn't even have the awareness of. It's something it does naturally, and that's a pattern of life. There's beauty in those patterns. And we don't have to only see the mess in a pathological trait of a pathogen. I think that if you scale it down, because you're going to look it up, a pathogen, right? The root of a pathological thing, of pathology, a pathogen. If you independently want to talk about the pathogen and simplify it to a term of one, a pathogen. It's critical that little pathogen, right, on the widest scale could affect us and our whole awareness of something that has probably been a pattern. The pattern stemmed into another pattern. The different words change, mutate. These things have, it has grown and developed into this. And now we see there are always going to be those words, but see the pattern, the pathological trait, the tail. They say that it got a tail. If you look at this picture, I zoomed $1 million seconds. I looked all the way to the goddamn morsel of what it is, and they gonna tell you, look, now there's a tail coming from it. Now it looks like it's shaped like this. See, the thing about it is, peep the pattern though. Peep the pattern. That's pretty. That's another P. It's a lot of P's that I respect, but respectfully, let's press the right P's. Patterns and pathology, baby. However you want it. Now, don't expect anything with these episodes, man. You just should open your mind to the expectation of more in your life. That's what I'm doing. That's what we doing. Man, education for creation. We have branded here at See You On The Flip Side. And what more can we do? There isn't much time to offer, but there is always time to share. We don't make promises over here at See You On The Flip Side, but we do stand on that. And whatever you stand on, man, I salute you today. So I salute you. Make that a pattern that you stand on for the rest of your life, for the rest of your whatever your journey consists of. Make it happen. Stand on it. Stand on it. Make that a trait. Make the pattern happen and implement it and put that on that. You know what I'm saying? Sprinkle that on there. Show us what you got in that secret recipe, because people don't even know that they got a. They might have spiced it up. Got in the kitchen one day with the news and put a little whatever. You know what I'm saying? Little basil, whatever. It's a little basil. Let me put a little. Got the with the paprika. You know what I'm saying? Pressing P. But ain't told nobody. Homie always go in the kitchen making noodles. I know you know him, right? And you like, what is he putting in his noodles though, bro? It's like, shit, you can keep on smelling it. That don't mean buddy gotta tell you either. Thing about it is, hey, it ain't much. It's that easy right there. You know, homie come out the kitchen, I'm straight up like, well, what you using there, man? Cause you know, look, I put my spin on it. So that's how we gotta come with all this, man. Education for creation. Thank y'all for coming in and tapping in. Thank y'all for listening. Thank you for supporting anybody in the community that is growing, and anybody who has grown and then staying above that matter in which they build and protect. Let's salute everybody like that, man. Coming into the summer, Kansas City has already lost enough. Things hit heavy even with the storms out the gate, man. So let's just do what we got to do in order to keep the path clear. Press the right P, man, and you know, and keep it jazzy. That's what I'm saying. Because the barbecue about to start going up. Everybody's hungry. So you know everybody else going to pop up. So let's press P, man. Let's keep it jazzy and let's do it. Let's show them what we doing, man. We already did it on the field. So let's go ahead and keep it in the field. Shout out to everybody, man. So as we face the facts today, every time is not expected to be bad news, you know. I don't want to make that a pattern that y'all just expect me to drop some jewels that really ain't too polished. But we got to face the facts some days. That's what brings us to this. So at least 6 are dead after a helicopter that had crashed in the Hudson. And by now, a lot of you have probably heard about this story. Mines is generating from AP at Scripps News. It's just generally where I annotate mines. And right now, that's where we going with it. Now, let's get back to this fact. 6 people dead. Out of those 6 people, there were 3 kids. Out of those 6 people, there were 3 kids, 3 adults. None of these individuals were residents of the United States. In all fact, it was actually a trip that they were having, and it was a tourist flight. These things, let's keep in prayer. We losing people every day, you know, every which way. I just got on a plane for the first time. I got on a plane for the first time in 2023. Yeah. And I flew to Kansas City. That was crazy. Now, leading up to now, I haven't taken a lot of flights, but I've acquired a little more mileage. But in that matter, I'm a little more frightened to even jump up there. Like, I know it's quicker and it'll deliver. But the thing about that is, you know, let's keep our prayers out there, man, and stay vigilant to what's going on. We're not going to put the blame on anything that they already trying to explain. But in this matter, we all lost, and we all are losing a sense of security and to do things just like us. I've never been in a helicopter. I might have went to New York, man, you know, with that same anticipation as that family. And Lord forbid, you know, that the grieving is harsh for whoever was affected. Prayers out to them, man. But in consideration for everybody in that matter, no matter what the outcome is, what triggered this whole accident and this mess that we all end up having to clean up as a whole, we have to face the facts, man. These things have to be taken into consideration and in preparation and in a pattern of how things are occurring. Pathologically speaking, we don't want to coin these wrecks. So let's face the facts today. Keep them in y'all prayers, man. All the way from here to Jersey, New York, and every which way that is affected by these things that we are dealing with as we face the facts. Thank you for tuning in.
Subscribe and watch these videos. Make sure you subscribe all the time. believe. Thanks for subscribing, and you are the best you've seen what you ever seen. Be behaved here.